Story 1. Joe Metheny, Santa Claus of the Night, USA. In Baltimore, during the 1,990 seconds, Christmas lights lined the wet streets, and people believed this was the safest time of the year, a season of gifts, kindness, and warm reunions. But under a massive bridge in the outskirts of the city, where homeless tents sat silently in the dark, a 200-kilogram man watched those distant holiday lights. He didn't care about Christmas. He didn't care about joy. What he cared about was hunger. Not hunger for food, a darker craving that consumed him from the inside. His name was Joe Metheny, and his story became a winter nightmare Baltimore would never forget. Joe Metheny grew up in poverty, surrounded by violence and neglect. He joined the military, fell into addiction, and ended up living under bridges. No one cared about him. No one remembered him. And when a man feels he no longer belongs to humanity, he stops seeing others as human. Metheny claimed his rage began when his girlfriend left him and took their child. He believed the local homeless community helped her disappear. One cold winter night, he went looking for answers and killed his first victim beneath the bridge. No one noticed. Police never connected the clues, and Metheny realized something terrifying. He could kill and the world didn't care. He began luring vulnerable people with promises of food and shelter. Inside his dimly lit shack, Metheny unleashed the bitterness he carried for years. People kept disappearing, but the worst part was what he did afterward. Metheny said he hated wasting things, a simple sentence hiding a horrifying truth. He opened a small barbecue stand and mixed special meat with pork and beef before serving it to truckers passing by. He proudly said, "Is greater than, if you season it right, nobody can tell the difference." A sentence that froze the entire investigation. His downfall came when one victim escaped and alerted police. Officers arrested him while he was calmly tending his barbecue stand, as if nothing in the world was wrong. In interrogation, he confessed everything, with the casual tone of a man describing a hobby. He said he did it because he liked the feeling of feeding his hunger. Christmas is supposed to be warm, hopeful, and bright. But for Joe Metheny, it was just the perfect backdrop for his quiet, monstrous appetite. He wasn't cunning. He wasn't complicated. He was pure darkness. A man who killed because he wanted to, cooked because he enjoyed it, and never once saw his victims as human beings. In one of Baltimore's coldest winters, people realized a chilling truth. Sometimes the monster isn't hiding in the snow. It's waiting under the bridge for someone to walk by. Story 2. Omaima Nelson, the California Christmas Crasher, USA. December 1991. Homes across California were decorating Christmas trees and hanging lights, believing the holidays would bring warmth, forgiveness, and peace. But inside a small apartment in Costa Mesa, darkness was quietly waiting to erupt. And the one who opened the door to that storm was a young woman with a beautiful smile. Her name was Omaima Nelson, and she would become the woman who shattered Christmas. Omaima grew up in Egypt with poverty and violence as her daily reality. She moved to America at 18, hoping for a new life. Her beauty and charm made her stand out instantly. But behind her smile was a soul stitched together by trauma. Someone always seeking protection, yet always attracting controlling men. In 1991, she married Bill Nelson, a man nearly 30 years older. Their romance burned fast, and so did their conflicts. Arguments, manipulation, control. A pressure cooker waiting for the lid to blow. Omaima claimed that during Thanksgiving night, Bill became violent. She fought back violently and eventually killed him in self-defense. But everything that happened afterward became one of California's most disturbing holiday crimes. Instead of calling police, Omaima began dismantling the body. She told investigators, "It was the only way to make sure he couldn't hurt me again." But evidence suggested her actions went far beyond fear. For 2 days, neighbors heard the grinding of a food processor. Nobody thought it was suspicious. Not until Omaima asked an ex-boyfriend to help her clean something up. When he saw the garbage bag filled with body parts, he called the police immediately. Officers entered the apartment and found dismembered remains in the sink, blood on the kitchen floor, parts wrapped like leftover food, and a terrified Omaima muttering, I had no choice." During questioning, Omaima hinted something that would forever stain the case. Is greater than, "I cooked parts of him to make him go away." The court couldn't confirm how far it went, but the statement alone turned the case into nationwide horror. Psychologists believed she snapped after prolonged abuse. Prosecutors argued she acted with chilling clarity. Omaima appeared calm, almost detached at her trial. She insisted Bill abused her. She insisted she defended herself. But prosecutors showed evidence that suggested planning, control, and deliberate actions. She was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to over 25 years. Christmas is supposed to be about love, but inside that Costa Mesa apartment, love twisted into terror and trauma exploded into tragedy. Omaima Nelson wasn't a monster lurking in the shadows. She was a broken woman who created her own nightmare. And in that winter of 1991, Americans learned a chilling truth. Sometimes the danger isn't a stranger outside, but the person sleeping in the same bed. Story 3. Snowtown Cannibals. Death Warehouse in South Australia, 1990. If you drive across the quiet countryside of South Australia, you'll find towns so small you can walk from one end to the other in minutes. Silent streets, a handful of houses, life moving slowly. Snowtown was one of those places. Ordinary, forgettable, until police opened the doors of an abandoned bank vault and found 6 plastic barrels, each one holding a nightmare. This is the story that made Australia shudder. Late 1980 seconds, Adelaide was filled with poverty and desperation. And in the middle of it, John Bunting appeared charming, confident, but deeply manipulative. He saw himself as protector of the neighborhood, but in reality, he was hunting for followers. He found them, Robert Wagner and James Vlasakis, men scarred by abuse and easily controlled. Together, they formed what would later be called Australia's most calculating killing team. By the late 1990 seconds, people around them had begun to disappear. People who were poor, mentally fragile, or socially isolated. Police eventually traced the final location of many of these victims to a former bank building in Snowtown. In its dark, cold vault stood 6 sealed barrels. When officers pried them open, a stench flooded the room. A smell you never forget, one officer said. Inside, dismembered remains dissolved in acid. Snowtown had just revealed its secret. Bunting selected victims who wouldn't be missed. He framed his crimes as cleansing society, and his followers took his words as truth. The trio manipulated victims for money, recorded victims' voices to fake phone calls, disposed of bodies methodically. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't impulse. It was a system, and that was the true horror. Prosecutors described the operation as is greater than a factory of death. Bunting and Wagner were charged with 11 murders, one of the largest serial killing cases in Australian history. Even seasoned investigators struggled listening to the details. Snowtown wasn't just murder. It was murder industrialized. Bunting and Wagner received life without parole. Blasakis, who testified against them, received a long prison term. Snowtown became a stain on Australia's history, a reminder that evil doesn't always appear as a monster. Sometimes it looks like your neighbor. Snowtown showed that in small places, in quiet towns, in seemingly ordinary lives, darkness can grow in silence. And inside those barrels lay not just victims, but the terrifying truth of what ordinary people can become when hate finds a home. 3 stories, 3 broken souls, 3 paths into darkness, and all of them remind us of one thing. Within every human being lies a door that should never be opened. So tell me, inside you, is it the angel or the demon waiting to wake? Leave a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Dark File, where the darkest secrets are brought to light.